everyone, welcome back to my channel, Offer Accepted. I'm Candice Fontes, your local real estate advisor. If you're buying or selling a home or just curious about what's going on in the real estate world, you've probably heard about the big shakeup in how real estate agents get paid. It's been nearly a year since the commission structure changed, and today I'm breaking down exactly what that means for the market, for agents, and for buyers and sellers like you. Let's dive in. In case you missed it, here's a quick recap of the change in commission structure. The traditional model had the seller typically paying their listing broker somewhere between 5 to 6%, and that listing broker then pays the buyer's broker a split from that commission. Back in August of 2024, that changed in many markets across the U.S. in response to a series of lawsuits and pressure around transparency and fairness in real estate fees. Now the seller makes the decision of whether or not they want to offer compensation to the buyer broker, and it is not in the hands of their listing broker. It's a move toward unbundling services and making costs clearer. But it also raised a lot of questions. Like, would this price buyers out of the market? What happens if a buyer doesn't have the cash to pay their own broker? And what happens to competition? Let's talk about what's actually happened over the past year. First, the market impact. Here's what we've seen so far. Home prices haven't dropped. In our area, homes have continued to rise due to low inventory and high demand, although that rise is at a much slower pace compared to the last 5 years. So if buyers thought that they'd be seeing discounts, they're still waiting. Buyers are now more aware of the commissions and where they are coming from. Some are factoring in that extra cost of paying their own agent and trying to negotiate lower home prices. Side note, if you are a seller and you know how buyers think, doesn't it make sense to offer the compensation to the agent to get the highest possible offer? I'll circle back to that later. FSBOs, or for sale by owner listings, are slightly up. Sellers are realizing they can list without agreeing to pay a buyer's agent, or they offer a reduced commission, making DIY sales more appealing. But beware, the average FSBO sells for at least $55,000 less than the home listed by an agent. Also, 21% of those sellers end up hiring an agent anyway because the sale was unsuccessful. Think of all that time wasted. In short, the structure shifted, but the fundamentals remain the same. So, how has this shift impacted real estate professionals? Since buyer representation agreements are mandatory, agents have to present clients with these documents before they can show them a house. This means way more educating upfront and longer consultations. Since it is no longer listed in MLS, agents now have to call the listing agent and ask if their seller is offering compensation to the buyer's side. If agency compensation is not being offered or only partially offered, the conversation needs to go even deeper. There may be need for further negotiating to get the deal done. So, how has this new structure changed the buying or selling experience? For buyers, it has become important to have their agent ask up front if the seller is offering buyer agent compensation. Using that information, you can form your offer accordingly. There are many ways to play with the math and structure an offer. To be clear, the traditional format is that the commissions came from the proceeds, so the seller was never actually paying anything at the closing table out of pocket. The buyer was always the only party paying money, and the fees were just baked in. Now, if the seller is not offering that compensation, an argument could be made that they may be using comps which offer compensation, and therefore the home is valued 2% lower than their actual asking price. If the market is highly competitive, buyers may be willing to go above asking anyway. But as the market cools and homes are not moving as fast, there is a lot more room for negotiations. For sellers, you may be seeing a lot more buyers trying to represent themselves or go direct to your agent. But be aware of this, your agent is there to represent you. It is important to have your agent's confidentiality, obedience, and full disclosure. If they are representing both sides, you may not have that same relationship. Lastly, if you choose not to offer compensation, you are limiting your buyer pool. For example, if a buyer assumes they have to pay agent commissions, they may choose not to submit an offer or even look at that home in the first place. Since commissions can't be financed, paying that cost separately may change the structure of their loan altogether. What a turnoff. Overall, the transaction has become more transparent, but also more complex. So here we are nearly 1 year in, and new commission structures is definitely shaking things up. It's created more options, but also more responsibilities for everyone involved. Buyers have to plan better, agents need to justify their value, and sellers have to weigh how commission incentives impact their listing. This shift isn't just about money. It's about redefining trust, clarity, and the role of professionals in a massive financial decision. So what do you think? Have you bought or sold a home since the change? Are you an agent adjusting to the new landscape? Drop your experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real estate insights every week. Thanks for watching.